Hey everybody, this is the Freeman Mastermind. Welcome. I am your host today, Adam Wins. Hopefully Bo will be here shortly. He's doing some trust business and he's slow, so he'll be here momentarily. I wanted to wish you guys all you know a wonderful day. Um, Hope you guys are getting everything done you want to get done. Lucas has a question. What in the state of New York do I need to do to hold a handgun? Um, got no idea, Lucas. Got no idea, man. Like what you're referring to. But by all means extrapolate on it and put it into the comments section. Um so one of the things that I wanted to comment on and really wanted to get into a little bit, we were having a conversation a day or two ago with Bo's son Jaden, and he was at the Trust Mastermind going through the trust work. And one of the biggest things that, let's say, he wanted to get right into trust work and start training people in trust. And as you know, last week they're going for some car donations and some different things, starting to get that ball rolling, which is good if that's where you want to go with things, and that's where they do. So that's one good place. Um, there's a little bit of issues that I found, let's just say, from a separation of church and state. And where do we start educating others about trust, and where do we really go, and what's the next step forward? So ideally, I didn't really want to do an event. We were doing the event because it was something that we had promised to do, to the group, to the mastermind group. It's something that we were following up from losing David this past year. So moving into 2026, we can do some trust events if they're absolutely necessary. Um, but the main point and the main place that those trust events um, um, hold on one second. A judge ran your passport and came back. Proceed in bold green twice. He would not proceed. He is judge, auto show, and gun shop. He also said, um, I don't know, Lucas, what any of that stuff means. But I'm with you there. Just try to explain a little bit more what you're talking about there, and maybe reach out to Bo. Bo, how you doing, man?
Good, brother.
Good to see you. So Bo's a little bit busy today. Um, we and thank you for being busy today. I know you got a lot of
Oh yeah.
trust work to do.
Yep.
Um, One of the things I was talking to Jaden the other day
Yeah.
about like direction and where we go with trust work and where trust work really needs to go. And I think kind of expounding upon David's teaching. And what I mean by David's teaching is that he had a great window of realization that there's three major things that happen in your life, right? One of those is you have a child. The second is you get married, and the third would be, if you don't keep married, you get a divorce, or you open some type of business or something like that.
Right.
One of the major things that is problematic, say, in the world today is we have really, really crappy leaders. Like
Yeah.
extremely crappy leaders to where even the minister churches have become popular, right? Um, I'm not trying to be critical of anyone getting wealthy. I'm not trying to be critical of, it's how you get wealthy, I would say. And
Right.
one of the things that challenges my brain to no end. Could I have a pen that works, please? Thank you. One of the things that challenges my brain to no end in trust work is how trusts, or let's even say ecclesiastical organizations like a church, could sign a contract, right? Like it's bad enough that when we're born, our mother signs a contract and gives us over to the jurisdiction of the state, right?
Right.
We've all established that thanks to David. He made our eyes aware of that, because I think before David, nobody was really aware that our mother was the informant on our birth certificate, right? The one that turned us over to the state. And what does that really mean, Bo? When you get turned over to the state, it means that the state now has control of that entity and jurisdiction over them, right? Meaning that they can make the decisions for that party. Okay. And they're allowed to be the decider as well as the Caesar of that party. Okay. So after we get born into this situation that is really unfair, right? Because none of us really consented, agreed, or said, "Hey, I want to be a part of this," right? It was created by, what's the guy named Mann or somebody who created the birth certificate. There's some MANN. I don't know who the guy was, but there was some guys that went along with some government officials to create this whole birth certificate thing. But then we get into more sacred relationships, right? Because birth is not really as sacred as the creation, right? The creation should happen between a husband and a wife, right? Before there's a birth. And what usually happens is that the first thing they do when a man and a woman come together and they want to procreate is they go to their pastor, and the pastor says, "Go get a marriage license and I can marry you in my church." So the first thing that this pastor does is turn you over to the state, right? He's an informant. Just like your mother is an informant on your birth certificate, the pastor at 99.9% of churches, especially those that are 501c3 churches, they turn you into the state because they even have licenses for pastors to marry people. Okay. And it's this circle of like turning over your most intimate relationships, your most intimate possessions, your most intimate, I would even say creations, right? Because your marriage is a sacred creation between husband and wife. And then when husband and wife create a child, that's the most sacred creation that you two can create together. And what infinitely happens is that we're incredibly deceived to turn over that relationship from the pastor, because the pastor or the priest or the minister, he's under a 501c3, right? He's a government church. He asks for permission to the government. Can I be a church, right? Not to God. So his first alignment, his first agreement, and maybe his only covenant in writing on paper is with Caesar. And when I say Caesar, I'm saying it phonetically. I'm not saying it CEASAR. I'm saying it Seizer, a Caesar, right? So often they use this term in the Bible against us, give Caesar what's Caesar's, right? Well, what is a Caesar? Is a taker, right? A taker. And the first thing that they do when your mother turns you over and signs that birth certificate is they take that child, right? They take that, whatever you want to call it, all caps, straw man, whatever you're responsible for, they take you into their state. Now, the issue is that, you know, certain things become hard, right? Certain things become difficult because, like, if you marry your wife in a trust, which is the way you should do it, then guess what? The Caesar doesn't honor it. So if you're not from a country and you need to get your wife like immigration papers, not honored. If you need insurance or something like that, husband and wife, not honored, right? If you're traveling and you say, hey, I'm traveling with my wife, they're like, that's not your wife. You don't have a license. So they're turning rights, God-given rights to have a wife, into a licensable action, which is completely unconstitutional, right? I mean, it's absolutely abhorrent to the Constitution. It's absolutely abhorrent to God, because they're putting themselves, as David taught us, into that marriage relationship. Because as soon as we get married with the state, it turns out that I have a contract with the state, and I have a contract, and my wife has a contract with the state. And guess who gets to decide? So let's say we go to the minister and say, hey, we want to get married. He says, go get a license. Well, I don't need to go in front of a judge to get married. I don't need to say, hey, judge, could I get married? But if I want to get unmarried, if I want to get divorced, I must go in front of a judge. I must go to another man and say, hey, other man, would you please, since I allowed you and your governments to interfere and become an interloper, a third party in my marriage, would you please come and tell my family what can be done? Could you please come and say how many days a week I get to see my children, if at all? How much money I have to pay for my children? Or I could be put in jail. Like, the upside to marriage with the state is like a zero, right? Other than, let's say, immigration and maybe some like some minor benefits that they're trying to loop you into, it's definitely there's no upside to it. Because Bo, when you ever want another man to tell you when you can see your kids?
Right?
Never. Yeah. And the thing about it is like, you know, I was even speaking to Jaden about this, and I'm like, Jaden, like, this is the best place because we all made mistakes. Okay. And even David made mistakes. Like, David uncovered this aspect about things, but you absolutely cannot send a annulment form or an annulment declaration to the state and expect the state to respect that, right? So legally, if you went in front of a judge, they would laugh you out because you have to go through a judge until a judge would say that was okay, right? So if you say, hey, we're not married anymore, and it was a legal matter and you had to prove that to a judge, it wouldn't be proved to a judge, right? So you might as well just file it in your filing cabinet if that's what you want to do. And it's okay that we're incorrect, okay? That's how we learn, right? We learn by mistakes. And the mistake David made, that you can send that annulment in. Well, you cannot. I mean, you can, but it's not going to have any legal effect. The only legal effect is you have to go ask another man, can I please get divorced? And he's like, well, we're going to have a hearing on that, and we'll have to decide, and we're going to have to decide what to do with your children, even if it's unopposed by both sides, because you've allowed another man to come into your relationship. So basically, it's like it's almost Sodom and Gomorrah is what they've established, right? Like, can you imagine if they started? So they make rules on how you can raise your offspring, right? Your creation. Well, what's to stop them from getting in your bed and like making rules on like, would you want to jump in my bed too, Judge? You know what I mean? Because there's so much disrespect to another man to jump into any aspect of his relationship, right? But at the same time, it's our mistake that we didn't create a marriage contract and a marriage covenant, a marriage trust that had all the rules already in place. It's our fault. That's really where, like, we as a people need to go. Now, Joel Osteen makes about $54 million a year. His church makes on average about $300 million a year, which is pretty dang good. You know what I mean? But I guarantee any man that gets married in his church by him as the pastor, he tells him to go get a license because we're not going to honor that. So who's he working for? He ain't working for God. I mean, I'm sure he has good intentions. He saved my life. I love the man, but we're all making these mistakes. It's a big mistake right now. And I don't know if they realize it. They've been neshing up until now. Once they know it, and I think, Bo, our job for our trust ministry is to really go in and educate these guys because they're neshing. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. You know, right. They think they work for, they do work for Caesar, right? And if you even look at his name, if you spell it out, it's Jew, Jew, lie, Lie, U-S, Caesar, Seizer, right? Phonetically, the one that created the empire. And we're, again, the Roman Empire, which we've undoubtedly never left. You know, we thought at a certain point, or we were taught that there was a republic, right? Because Rome also had a republic. They went from republic to empire, and the empire, you know, this Jew, lie, us, the Caesar is a title. And a Caesar is one that takes, doesn't give. There's no give in that take. It's a Caesar, right? They just arbitrarily take. So it's incredibly difficult for me to comprehend. And again, this could be just like our next path of where David put us, right? Like where we got to go, because David got us on the right track, right? Yeah. We all made a lot of mistakes, and we're realizing we've made a lot of mistakes. The problem is a lot of us like thought we could fix those mistakes, right? And there are ways to correct them and make better choices. But a lot of times when we got married without a contract, it's harder to fix, right? Going and get a divorce is hard to do, right? You gotta go in front of another man and do it. And you're like, what? Why would I have to do that? You know? I didn't have to go in front of another man in the same way. Why can't I just go to my pastor? He's the one that married me. Can't I just say, hey, we're not married anymore? Here's the rules. We both agree. Like that would be what you would think would be equitable, right? But you know, we've been misled by the television, right? Because it always tells you like, you better get your marriage license before City Hall closes, you know? And
because there's tax incentives, they say.
There are tax incentives, which is exactly, there's tax incentives for a 501c3. They can get government grants. But a tax incentive means you work for the Caesar. So if you work for the Caesar, you get a percentage of what's seized. Because everything from the Caesar is seized.
Yep.
Yet there's nothing like, there's no kind of permission that any of us are giving, or let's say willingly given, that we want to be taken from. Yet in every case, from the time that we're born, I didn't really consent to, anything that's going on there. I didn't consent to give up all my rights to a certain state because my mom informed on me. I don't think she knew what she was doing. I don't think I, consented to that. So, a lot of people are looking for this status correction stuff. And unfortunately, you kind of have to ask Satan to fix what Satan did, right? You have to ask the Caesar
Right.
to unseize you. So you may have to go in front of a judge. I've come to the realization that if you really want to correct your status, meaning that it would have to do with your birth certificate, that whoever signed for your birth certificate, I don't think maybe they had a right to give you up if they in fact, could prove that you were theirs.
Right.
But again, we're all from God, we're all from Creator, we're all from Source, not from man or woman. Now we're playing that role, but it's just like in the trust. They're not my kids. That's not my wife. That's not my house. That's not my dog. Right.
Well,
These are things that were trusted over to love.
Right. I mean, when you think about in the beginning with creation and the way the Bible lays it out, is that we are his image bearers. Now, there were those that were created in his likeness only, but we not only have his likeness, but we also bear his image as his image bearers. And I think what's happening is the Caesar that's happening is trying to get us more like just knowing who we are in God's likeness and not also as image bearers. And what it means to be an image bearer is we literally have what Christ came to show us, and he showed us how to do it. And I know I said this before.
Christ is when God became man. I mean, that's
right.
That's what it is. It's that God is in all of us, that we're all God, not that we're not the opposite of God, which is man. That's like,
but we miss the fact that we're image bearers though too. Yeah.
But you pointed out when you mentioned the fact about patents, right? Like, we're not patentable because we're not man-made.
Right.
So you can't patent me. You can patent a COVID vaccine. You can patent, brother. I don't know about that, but yes. But like, there's all these non-patentable things out there that are natural and God created.
Right.
But then there's all these other man-created things that they can patent. And those are the things that we're not supposed to be of. We're not supposed to be of man. We're supposed to be a man of God, meaning that God and the creator and the source is inside of us and represent that. But we're under anybody's interpretation, it doesn't appear that we're supposed to give Caesar what's not his, because Caesar can only seize man's crap, because Caesar is the man, right? Not the man in God. He's the man outside of God. And that man outside of God, the Caesar, like, you're not supposed to give him the God-given things. You're not supposed to give him the marriage. You're not supposed to give him the offspring. You're not supposed to give him your most intimate of things. You're not supposed to give him your business, right? Yeah. Like, you're not supposed to give him God's work.
And you're actually speaking on what Jesus said is the unpardonable sin, and that is giving recognition to something other than God for what God has done. And in essence, what we're doing is we're acknowledging all the things that are Caesar's in the first place, and we're fighting for the things that aren't necessarily ours, because we're well, as image bearers, we have a different authority. And in that authority, recognizing who we are, that gives us access to the things that are essentially Caesars, but Jesus taught us how to live parallel to that system so that we can use that system to our advantage, not not to be controlled by it, not to be run by it, but recognizing that in that system, the unpardonable sin is giving credit to what God has done in us to Caesar or to another man or to what like what you're saying is the covenant of the marriage. We're giving that, it is essentially an unpardonable sin. We're giving that to another man. We're giving that to
Yeah.
Caesar.
Yeah. Now,
Right.
the driver's license, okay, you're driving something man-made, right? You're driving a vehicle that some man at General Motors made.
Right.
Your gun, Lucas, that's a Caesar, right? It's Caesar's. He can take it back. He can take back the gun. It's Caesar's. He can take back the car. It's Caesar's. The problem is this whole give Caesar what Caesar has been twisted.
Right.
Where you don't hear the truth. You think that Caesar is just allowed to arbitrarily just give him whatever Caesar's got his picture on it. It's Caesar's. Yeah, that means if it's man-made and got a picture of man on it, a car, a house, whatever, that's Caesar's. The land ain't never Caesar's. It's always God's. Right? So, you know,
that's why when you get a mortgage, it's never on the land. It's always on the property.
Yeah, because it's man-made.
Correct.
And that's the only thing that they can really patent. They can't patent us unless we give it up, right? Like everybody did with that vaccine. And then they use the churches to peddle it, right? Because the churches had an obligation to do whatever the government said because they had a contract. Close the church. Advise your congregation that they should all get, you know, one of these. And the thing about this whole thing is I'm strongly against wrong. I'm completely against wrong. And we've established this so many times that I'm like blue in the face on it, but it's always a wrong is always an action that causes harm. And there's always this like defensible harm, right? Like stealing. It's never defensible, ever. Okay? If you're stopping that from happening, and if you have to do harm while you're stopping or what can be construed as harm, it's not actually harm. Like if you're stopping a murder, if you're stopping a rape, if you're stopping a theft, and there's some kind of like, you know, violence that occurs, it's not an actual harm. But when you're stealing from another man to try to accomplish your goals, like, you know, it's absolutely what the Caesar does, and you become the Caesar. It's like people that go to tax sale auctions. Like, how could you be more of a Caesar, sleazer? Just add a little L in there to Caesar, the sleazer, than to go to a tax sale auction where Caesar takes from you and then takes from you again and then takes from you again, you know, and then, you know, makes laws up so you can't bury your family on your land. So the land doesn't become holy and become conscripted and doesn't become part of God's law. It becomes part of man's law and says, no, go over into this public cemetery where we tell you you can bury your family, or where we tell you you can have these land rights. And that's where we've gotten very much off of alignment. Because 99% of churches are going to tell you, hey, yeah, you should come to some counseling classes before you get married. Nobody tells you to make a contract before you get married. I mean, what kind of business is that with no contract? You got to have a contract. Yeah, like you're dating, you're starting to make the terms, but then the terms of the contract never get made for anybody, right? Like there's nobody knows what the other party wants. Like they just think they know, like, oh, we just want to like be married until death. Like, but there's a whole bunch of other things that go into that contract, right? Like, hey, you got to take a shower, like, hey, you got to clean your room or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these different expectations that we have that lead to things like divorce because people are intentionally put into contracts with zero defined terms, right? So you got to really get clear on your terms with contracts. That's why contracts are so important. They're incredibly important. You lay things out, and sometimes the dating process can take years, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, But when you actually have that contract, if you get married and you just go in front of a priest or a minister and say to have and to hold forever and ever and ever, I don't think anybody can really define what that means. It's almost like right and wrong before we define the definitions, before we gave God's laws and right and wrong. You have to be the one. It's kind of like in trust, we have something called bylaws, right? And if you're not creating a marriage trust with your partner, you don't have any bylaws, right? So if you cross or break a bylaw of the other party or things that are not in agreement, how do you even know you broke them if you never created them, right? Like that's the reason in a trust you have a declaration, which is like, hey, we're married. And here's the terms of our marriage. This is the bylaws of the things you can or cannot do, right? Like if it's something that you need dinner at 6 p.m. on the table every day, and your wife is like, I ain't cooking dinner, like that eventually will be a problem in your relationship because your bylaws aren't in order. And you can have a minutes meeting, you can revise your bylaws, but that's really the basis of how these marriages need to be constructed, not in a way that, you go to the Caesar and say, hey, can we get married? Yeah, it'll be $15. Okay, thank you. And you get this piece of paper for $15 and none of the terms of your family is decided until you decide to break it. Then you're going to let another man determine what the rules of your family are. So you're not a man if you get married in that way. I wasn't. I still am not because I'm still married in Caesar. It's a huge mistake that I'm like, man, this is messed up. How could I have the largest decisions that a man could ever make, marriage, family, and there's no rule basis? Like what? I'm the one, I can't make my laws for my family? Of course I can. That's the whole purpose of everything. And it's amazingly how much we allow Caesar to seize, right? We give up all of our power and say, hey, no, let's let some judge, not even in a real court, mind you, right? It's an administrative court. It's not even a constitutional court. So they don't even respect the Constitution whatsoever. You go to a kangaroo lower court and you allow some other man, or many times another woman, who's only supposed to be the helper, and you put her in the position of wearing the pants or being the man in the relationship, and she becomes the man in your relationship because you didn't do it. You didn't set the rules up front. You didn't put your own bylaws into place. And this is our own mistake as men. We don't even really have a right to be married without having that in place. Like the woman has to know the rules. Like, hey, if you do this, this, or this, or you don't do this, this, or this is going to happen. That's where how many problems could be solved by just having good contracts. You're a contractor, Bo. Contracts make the deal, right? Yeah, people break contracts, but it's very easy to get somebody back on the contract and say, hey, look at Article 2. It says, honey, you can't go out on Friday nights without me. Honey, you can't wear short skirts that are too short without my permission. You know what I mean? No, not acceptable. And if that's the contract that you get into, and that's what's in your marriage trust, I'm not saying that's for you. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that I would have in there, right? That's just something that's in my marriage trust. And it's up to you to make your own bylaws, whatever those are. Otherwise, you're giving Caesar what ain't his. Right. Your wife ain't Caesar's. If he is, well, that's a FUCK, right, Bo? Fornication under the king. You giving it all to Caesar. Right. I think we got to get back to the basics, man. Like, really back to the basics on this, because the marriage is before the birth. And then you got some numbskull wife. Why did they let the wife sign on that? Like, it should be right there in your marriage contract. Hey, wife, you can't sign some birth certificate when you're under duress. Like right after you just had like a bunch of drugs in you, and then you're going to give up our children to the state. Right. That doesn't sound, when you explain it like that, Bo, does that sound like a good idea? No. But that's what we all do. No, it's now that I think about it too, how come the husband's not involved, or the father, right? Who is the authority in the way that it's supposed to be, right? Caesar stole your wife. Yeah. He's a Caesar. He comes in and says, hey, pss, 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 pss. Eve, pss, 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 pss. Right. Sign this. While she's on drugs, she just got off of like whatever, 12 hours. Even if it was a natural birth, I mean, think about all the endorphins that are kicking. Think of all the like still on drugs, emotions, bro. And everything. Yeah, like, because natural drugs, one or the other. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah, you're definitely under duress. She's completely under duress. And completely euphoric because that experience of birthing a child is now over, and they'd do anything at that point, because before they wanted to murder their husband because of the pain that he put her through. Yeah, but we as the husbands didn't teach them this. We as the husbands didn't teach them. We didn't fulfill our duty as, to be Adam under God, to be the last Adam, to be the Jesus Christ, to be when God became man, because God would never give his anything over to the Caesar. He just wouldn't. He wouldn't give anything to Caesar, because the only thing you can give Caesar is something that he stole. Because that's all Caesar can get, is things that Caesar stole. Because he's a Caesar. He's only a taker. There's not really a give. I mean, there's certain gives like, hey, we'll give you a tax break, but that's a trick, Right. It's entrapment. Yeah. It's entrapment. Yeah. Is what it is, because they're trying to get you into this like box that our families don't belong into. So, I don't know who this Caesar is. We know there's a lot of them. We don't know where the basis of it actually is, and like, is there like this, like, there's a lot of things going on here that are like unexplainable when we're dealing with like who's in charge, right? Like of who's in charge on the Caesar realm, right? Like, I don't know who, and I don't want to learn, I'm happy to learn that I'm not of Caesar. I don't want to be like Caesar. I don't want to have nothing to do with Caesar. And I want Caesar to stay away from me. And I ain't giving nothing to Caesar. Nothing. Right. So, Lucas, if you want to have a gun, 3D print it, man. Create it yourself. There's a lot of good ways to, not have to go to Caesar and ask for permission to defend yourself, or don't need a gun, learn how to box, or learn how to throw knives, or whatever it is, or just be strong in your conviction, knowing that God's going to take care of you. Learn how to throw knives. I love it. Yeah. Walk around like a ninja. Yeah. Or carry gasoline in your pocket, whatever you need. Oh, and a lighter. Sometimes you got to make, you got to make do with what God gives you. Right. Mm-hmm. And that situation. Right. My uncle, he was
he's a retired Marine, and he was in the recon. And I asked him, I said, hey, in a fight, what's the best weapon that you would carry wherever you are? And he said, well, essentially he said, well, a belt with a giant buckle. You can swing that thing. But he said, I don't go into any fight with anything, because he said, I know that they don't know how to use the things that they have around them, so I'll just take it from them and use them on them. He said,
Right.
I could take a gun within 15 feet before they even pull the trigger. He said, I could get to them, disarm them, turn it around on them, and beat them over the head with the butt of it.
Yeah, but
then if it's a knife, it doesn't matter. That's the easiest thing to take from
the
somebody.
number one weapon, though, is your feet.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's bettering you when you learn to better yourself, and you learn to do that. I'm not discrediting our ability to arm ourselves or defend ourselves. But
now, if you must defend yourself, then yes. Everything your mind can see and conceive,
right,
is your power, and resting on God, knowing that that's not the plan for you, and that
right. Well, I teach gun safety, right, and hunter's education, things like that. And the reality is this: and people ask me this, they're like, I want a gun because I wanted to protect myself. Well, if you don't know how to use the gun, if you don't know how to activate it, if you don't know how to be a professional at that tool to activate it, then you have no reason to get one, because all it's going to do is going to be turned around on you and your family. And the reality is this, is that if you want to be, Jesus said, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Yeah. So don't live by the thing that you think is going to protect you. Live by God, right? Better yourself. And if you want to get one of these devices, like a personal protection device, that's what we call them. All right. We don't call them guns. We don't call them weapons, because there's only one true weapon. Everything else is a tool. There's only one true weapon. That's us. Yep. And there's only one thing that activates that one tool, and that's this. This is the only safety, right? Right here, your trigger finger. But it's right here. You have to better yourself up here. And if you're not physically fit to defend yourself physically, then what is a tool going to do to protect you? I mean, sometimes I'm just going to level with you. Sometimes it's better to turn tail and run the other way and live another day. I mean, it's just reality.
That's the number one weapon is to run away. You must.
But people think that they have to.
99% of the situations, because if you do shoot somebody with a gun, chances are you're going to get investigated, and then you're going to have a problem.
There's serious repercussions. But But the benefit of it is, if you know how to use it and you know how to utilize it, then you're probably never going to use it in the first place. In any situation. Could you imagine if you get a gun and you have a personal, or you've got, we'll call it a personal protection device. That's what we call it. And you're carrying it. And somebody, you go and buy a cell phone off of Craigslist or Facebook, right? And you take the saran wrap off or whatever they wrapped it in. You open that beautiful box. You find it's an old flip phone that's broken. The guy turned and ran. What are you going to do? You're going to pull that gun and you're going to shoot him in the back? Guess what? You're the one that's in trouble, not the thief.
Yeah, because that's wrong.
They never should have stolen from you in the first place.
Right.
But the reality is this.
Just like Venezuela, Mo. Just like Venezuela. Like, okay, the guy may have done some dirty shit. I don't know. Yeah. But like just going killing people arbitrarily, I don't know. Right. Where does it stop, Because now Russia said, hey, now that Trump just went and killed this guy or kidnapped him, we're going to go and kidnap the guy from Germany, the chancellor of Germany, and we're going to go and kidnap Zelensky because he opened the door. And two wrongs never make a right. And it's just, listen, if some guy isn't doing something you don't like and you catch him doing it, yeah, you definitely stop him from doing it. But
of course,
I would say trespassing like that so much, you always open the door that on that two wrongs don't equal a right. Okay. And I know that they gave everybody a bunch of toe the line like ideas, like we had to do this because he was the one responsible for all the drugs. Like not at all the people taking them, like they weren't responsible, and not at all our own jail system who like rewards like people's bad behavior by incarcerating them instead of healing them. And instead of, they open jails for people who have drug problems instead of, rehab facilities or actually real, places where they could get some mental help, which is what they need. Like, definitely don't fix our own system. Let's go somewhere else and kidnap people, because that's going to make things better. And it's just, it makes no sense to me. It's just Caesar, right? It's just, the guy's just a Caesar right now. And that's all it was. It was just going to see some other guy and say, hey, that's you're mine now, and your whole country is mine now. And come on, man. Like, I don't know. I think you kind of have to like opt in for that kind of stuff. Like, hey, you wanna come into our country? Like, I think there's better ways to do it than to seize everything. And I could be wrong there. There's probably a lot of stuff that like, but then there's people now that say we're not even allowed to question that, right? If you don't just go along with it, you're not a patriot. Well, I'm not a patriot because I'm not an idiot. And ultimately, even the word patriot, it's like you're just defending Caesar. You're like somebody who says Caesar's good, right? I love God above all. And that's the number one rule. It doesn't say to love whatever the form of government that's currently there, and, kind of whatever it says, go along with, right? Go along with the birth certificate, go along with giving your wife to a judge, because I mean, you might as well just go and give your wife to a judge right away. You know what I mean? Because he can do whatever he wants with your family. And that's the whole thing. Like, we need to have stronger families, and the stronger families start with our churches. They start with our schools. They start from our community. And when our community is weak, that's why people are on drugs. Like, they're not on drugs because some man that has a mustache in Venezuela, like, it has nothing to do why so many people in America are finding themselves harmful in drugs. It becomes because the day they're born, they're deceived. Their mom's giving them over to Caesar. And then their mom and dad are divorced because there wasn't any contract, right? They got told to go in there, and the contract wasn't between the husband and wife. It was between the husband and another man and the wife and another man. And whatever that other man decides, that's what happens. I mean, that other man, you want to hear this, brother? So I do. One of the guys I work with went through a divorce with his wife. He didn't really realize what he was doing when he got married. Like, all of us didn't, because we didn't have any good teachers. That's really what we need right now. We need good men out there teaching this in all the churches. That's the mission. That's the purpose. But with him, it went as far as this. He had a woman judge, got divorced. His wife lied all about him, got him put in jail for something he didn't do. He had to pay a lawyer to get himself out of jail. Turned out the woman was lying about everything. But that was a different judge. So she had to go to another judge, a woman judge, to decide what was going to happen to his child. So him and his wife had an agreement that their child wouldn't be vaccinated. Guess what? The judge mandatorily made vaccinations for the child. And then guess what? They were homeschooling their child, and guess what happened? Then this woman judge, came in and told them that they had to enroll their child in school. Not only that, they had to enroll her in a Catholic school. And she ain't even Catholic.
Right.
So those are the real life consequences of what happens when you don't really got up.
Right.
We just manning up all the time and like season up. We're season up to Caesar. And I know it's not popular what I just said, like, oh, Maduro, blah, blah. Like, yeah, go Trump. Everybody got to think that way. But I'm kind of over it. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not put here to just steal everything from everybody else. Yeah, we don't want them stealing from us. And who's us? You know? What are they stealing by getting a job that I won't take? Nothing. What are they stealing by, renting a house I won't rent? Nothing.
Right.
They're actually creating when they're here, a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just because they didn't buy the right visa, which is Caesar, right? You got to pay Caesar for the right visa. If you didn't pay Caesar for the right visa, we're going to seize you.
Right.
And we're going to ship you wherever we feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. And then you in Minnesota got all these Caesars working with Caesars. And then they're bringing over Caesars and they season everything. They're seizing your daycares. They're seizing your Mall of America. They're seizing the whole damn place. And I don't think Mike Lindell's going to fix that. We know the truth there, Bo. We spoke to his camp already. I don't know. He's a smart guy. I give him more credit than there's something really behind it. He doesn't appear smart, but he was really smart with the voting stuff. So he appears like a little bit of like a doof, but ultimately he's not a doof. He's actually kind of smart. I have to say, I hope that he's going to be more open to working for families and working for all of us that are of God, not all of us that are only of Caesar. You know what I mean? And I obviously there's no other choice now. I mean, he's going to be the next governor because you didn't run.
No.
So Mike Lindell is going to be the next one. So nothing we can do about it. He's been chosen. So, or he did whatever to get it, but it is what it is. We got to love him and try to get around him as much as we can to, let's say, influence him a little bit more because he goes to church, a government church, but he goes to church. So we got to start there and really opening up everybody's eyes so they can be a little bit more nescient or less nescient and get away from the ignorance that's currently like plaguing our country, because that's really what it is that not only our country, all these countries, you know what I mean? Is that like it's not only a US problem anymore, it's definitely we're allowing Caesar to determine everything. What's in our food, what can be in our food, what's in our bodies, what can be in our bodies. You know what I mean? Like it's getting to where we really got to God up on this one.
I agree.
And it all starts with the trust, because that's really the contract. It's really the bylaws. And that's even the Constitution, right? Your trust has a Constitution. And I don't know what trust we have anymore, patriot wise, you know what I mean? Because if you look at from day one, how could you trust that? Can't trust it. If you look at from the marriage, I mean, it's tough. So the annulment thing, guys, forget about it. It just isn't there. It's not. So if you want to correct your status in marriage, create the trust. Now, your wife might not be able to sit next to you on the airplane because you got to show that you're married sometimes when you go through the airport internationally. Sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you got to be careful when you need it and when you don't, because sometimes Caesar makes things like difficult for families, right? All the
Right.
time making things difficult for families since day one.
Yep.
And then you all support Caesar. You're like, no, Caesar's gonna change. Caesar don't change, man. Caesar is
No.
Caesar.
Yeah.
So give Caesar what Caesar's, and it ain't nothing of us. It ain't nothing of. It's only what Caesar created.
Right.
So that's pretty much all I got for today, guys. I apologize if I didn't teach you anything about trust, but I think that's the most important.
No.
Trust.
Here's the thing: is
Yeah.
that everybody needs to realize is that when it comes to trust and trust work, learning to be trustworthy in all aspects of life is important. And
Mm-hmm.
when Jesus said, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel, the good news, this information," his trust indenture, um, he didn't do that lightly. And so this is
Not at
something that
all.
we all have to sober up and recognize that this type of information is important. And even if people have heard similar um, conversations about this level of trust work in the past, it's always good to get a reminder, always, because well, wisdom is found in a multitude of counselors. You can take different conversations where we talk about the same thing and look at it as another level of counsel. And so there's wisdom in that, and recognizing that all of this is, in essence, trust work. We need to be found trustworthy. And like Paul says, in stewardship, that's what trust is. Trust work is
Mm-hmm.
stewardship. And we're stewarding this. In stewardship, a man must be found faithful. And
Yeah.
that's scripture. And so that's just something to recognize, that when we are speaking about these things, it's definitely something to um, make mention of the fact that in trust work, being trustworthy never ends. It's not something you can vacate. It's not something you can, uh, uh, just leave for a period of time. That's what they did in Sodom, by the way. In Sodom and Gomorrah, that whole scenario, but Sodom especially, they had a day where they had a lot of rules and a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
like the
things.
purge.
Yep, exactly. They had a
Yeah.
day where you could do whatever you wanted with anybody, and
Mm.
that's why they closed their doors. They wouldn't. It was a thing, um, but
Yeah,
they
and I don't think, like, again, like it's not having a trust, and having trust rules is not a moralistic or a puritanical type of thing, right? It's about having the knowledge of the other person and having the agreement with the parties that are involved and supposed to be involved in your trust, which with other trustees, with other beneficiaries, with with the grantor, which is God, the creator, right?
right,
And that's the only ones that should be involved in your trust business more than anything. It's not only about, like, if you could break the law or not. It's like, whatever rules you set up for your trust are your rules. You know what I
right,
mean? You can have your rules don't have to coincide with Caesar's rules. Now, if they don't, he'll try to seize from you, and they have to coincide with God's rules. I mean, you can't cause harm. They can't be harmful. But as long as they're not causing harm and they're not wrong, like little things that you make up in your um what do you call it? In your constitution or your bylaws can be
right,
really
right. Yep,
helpful in having an actual good contract, right? A good trustee, a good, let's say, a minutes meeting where you can even revise those bylaws, which, Bo, you and I have to do that soon, right? We've
yep,
got to trust, and we got to sit down and have a minutes meeting and correct some bylaws, because we've been talking about things that they got to go this way or do something like this, and we got to initiate some more rule sets. We got to initiate some other contracts inside of our contracts, right? And have our own private agreements, um because we've been talking about them. We need to get to a point where we agree on them. We can we amend the Constitution? We could always amend the Constitution.
Of course.
Can we amend the bylaws? We can always amend the bylaws. Can we amend the trustees? We can always amend the trustees. Can we amend the beneficiaries? We can always amend the beneficiaries. So that's the beauty of trust work. Like, nothing is unfixable. But when you get married, it's really hard to fix that when you marry Caesar, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh crap. Now I got to go and fill out all these forms. I got to ask another man for permission. What the heck is that? Please, please, please.
Right. Begging. No, it's what did we learn? They do a prayer.
A prayer.
Actually, a prayer. Yeah. And
you got to do a prayer to the judge. So it is, Bonnie was absolutely correct that it is a religion, No, that's not a religion. Then why you wear a robe and why we got to pray to you? Because I'm never going to pray to you. Yeah. Oh, well, it just means asking. Well, that's not what prayer is. Prayer is not asking. Prayer is the wish fulfilled. It's the knowing that you already have it. And it's the knowing that I don't have to ask any man, how to run my family.
Yeah.
But so many millions and millions of men have to. They have to ask if they can see their wife. They have to ask if they can see their daughter. They got to have, a restraining order because some man said that. You know what I mean? And in some cases, I guess it's necessary. But in most cases, it's there because there was never a real contract. There was never a constitution. There was never a rule set of like things you can and cannot do as my wife, things you cannot do as a husband, right? It's our job as a husband to set the rules, right? And if nobody's setting the rules, and if anybody could just do whatever they want, then everybody's just going to go kill everybody or kidnap them, right? Like, it's an unending kidnapping. Like, who's going to get kidnapped next? But it's so popular in our culture to kidnap others, right? All the police are kidnapping everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we come from kidnap culture, and then we go kidnap other presidents. Come on, man.
That's crazy.
You can't do that. You can't do that. It's kidnap culture we live in.
Yeah.
Where they think it's okay to just go kidnap another man because he didn't pay a speeding ticket, or kidnap another man because, whatever, because Caesar wants to seize his shit. He wants to seize your family. He wants to take your kids for the state, get money from the state for the federal government. Very Somali-esque.
Yeah.
But where did they learn that shit, man? It's like this whole Caesar institution. They learned it all from the Caesar.
Right.
And the kidnap culture that we have. It's like you're driving down the road. The fact that we're driving down the road and at any time could be kidnapped because we forgot to pay another man some money. Oops, I forgot to register. Oops, I forgot to I have a blinking light that's out. Oh my God, I could be kidnapped. Or I'm going too fast. I could be kidnapped. Like, all these nonsensical things that we have in this kidnap culture that we're allowing Caesar to come in. And then Caesar not only kidnaps us, he's seizing our family's time. He's seizing our family's money. He's seizing the respect, because you got to go explain it to your wife. Like, how did I get seized on the side of the road? It's not pirates. It's Caesar. It's worse.
Yeah.
It's kidnap culture where they make us believe that it's okay because they've drilled it in our heads. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Fuck, man. No, you're not coming.
Well, they do get the bad boys thing correct, though.
The problem is you're all bad little boys. And whenever somebody wants to make you a bad little boy,
right,
they believe that they have the right to be Caesar and seize you.
I think the bad boys are the cops. Isn't that what they call themselves?
I
They're
don't
the bad
know.
boys.
I don't know who's what, but whatever it
Maybe.
is, I'm not against any of those. I'm not against cops. Cops are great. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not against any of these things. What I'm against is the neshitness of everybody working for Caesar, that they believe that they like kidnapping is good. Like, I'll just go kidnap people and I like that's gonna make things better.
Right.
And then ultimately they get divorced, and then another man decides and they can't see their kids, and then they drink alcohol, and then they get more pissed at everybody. And it's this kidnap culture that is contagious.
Yeah.
Like, you're hunted on the road. Like, driving down the road is a danger. Like, could you ever, like, yes, maybe if you were in the jungles of Africa and there were lions and, jaguars and alligators, you could be a little bit like worried about being on your, how you're going to go down the road. But the fact that Caesar is out there, like, ready and willing to kidnap you, however he could make some good money off of it.
Right.
When's enough, guys? When is enough? And then you want to like put somebody up on a chair and celebrate that they just went and seized another man again. Like, for why? Because it was one of the only countries left that didn't have a central bank. Is that why? Let's be real. We did it to Saddam Hussein. What was he doing? Sitting in his palace, like giving all his people free health care. We did it to Gaddafi. Well, we didn't do it. Hillary
That's the
Clinton
strangest one
did
right
it to
there.
Gaddafi. And what was he doing? Giving all his people free health care, giving them all houses. Everybody, when they got married, got $20,000.
Yep.
Seemed like real bad guys to me. They needed to be seized right away, Caesar. Good job, Caesar. So anybody that supports this tyranny bullshit, I don't know. I'm just not for it. And I apologize if it doesn't agree with your current programming, but I can't like support it. It just doesn't, two wrongs don't make a right to me. And it just doesn't make sense. I can't justify the reason. Yeah, if he had a gun to somebody's head and was saying, hey, by all means, I don't know. He's the only thing I've ever heard from him is he was, talking about not having central banks and the influencers that require it,
Right.
The Caesars, the little sleazers.
Little sleazers.
Little sleazers. So I apologize, guys, that it might not be what you want to hear, but it might be what you need.
Right.
So give man what's man's. Your wife is not man-made. Do not give her to Caesar.
Yep.
And if you did, take her back.
Take her back. Okay?
Take her back. And if you gave your children up to Caesar, take them back. If they're your property, put them into a trust as trust property.
Yep.
So they're not yours, they're the trusts.
Yep.
Are these your children? No, they're trust property.
That's right.
It's better than being state property, which they are now. Caesar's property. And you just gave your children and your wife to Caesar. Good job, guys. Good job, Adam.
Well, we didn't know what we were doing.
Obviously. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And why didn't we know what we're doing? Because the Pergamon press is in our school system. Epstein's girlfriend's father.
Yeah.
Writing all the textbooks.
Yep.
Not teaching us anything about marriage. There's no civics.
Right.
Nobody knows why are people even getting married? So they can live in the same house and they can get some tax breaks.
Yeah.
Like the educational process there is, or so you can give 10% to the church, get married so you can give, 2 incomes of 10%, get more stable. I don't know, man. I don't know. So love you guys. And just think about this one, because this one is like, I would say more important. Like the trust isn't for you. Like create the trust for your family, create the trust for God. And it's not yours anyways, right? Like they're not your kids, it's not your wife. But if you're in an agreement where you and your wife are trustees of that trust, you share together, where God is the only other entity involved, as it should be, it's a very good start. So let's get back to the basis. And
all I gotta say, amen.
Right on.
Right on.
Right on. So I'm going to let you go. Oh, one other thing. The trumpets were my son. So the trumpets were discovered. I was doing a little bit of deep work on seals, Solomon's seals, and doing a little research there. Maybe we'll share with you next week if anybody's interested. Let us know. I've come up with a rework of a popular book on seals and how to use them. Because we're always using seals, right? Like we're getting notaries, seals. We're getting the state seals. Maybe we should start using Solomon seals on more of our paperwork.
Wow, that would be wild. Whoa.
Maybe that's the real truth, Bo.
I don't know.
So that's why I wrote the book on that. And I guess we'll go over Solomon seals next week.
All righty.
If anybody's interested, because that's probably how we should seal our trusts, with Solomon seals, not with Caesar seals. Even though Caesar's there as a witness, I don't know if we even need Caesar to witness. I mean, we really only need 2 witnesses on the trust. The problem with the trust sometimes is they could be called into Caesar and they have to defeat Caesar. So it's a tough one. I think Solomon probably would defeat Caesar. I don't know. That's a tough one. It's kind of like that one, if 5 gorillas versus 1 man kind of thing. Caesar versus Solomon. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, until next week, we'll go deeper into Solomon and those seals and how for centuries they were used, probably for a reason.
Yep.
And maybe they still are, just not by us because we don't know how to use them.
Right.
So maybe we'll start using them, gang. Maybe we'll start using them, guys. Maybe we'll start using them with love. All right?
Yes.
Have a good one, all. Talk to you next time.